Hello and welcome. I'm Ken. We're visiting with Mike. Mike, we've talked about the New York City Police Department, not the TV show. We've talked about rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem. We've talked about micro enterprises in Bangladesh. We've talked
Yes,
about a worldwide company like Nissan, all using similar tools and ideas to get out of a rut, have helpful change, and move forward.
yep.
What else?
I think the common denominator, or there are several common denominators. One is that the leaders, or those who came into the position of leadership, had a different mindset from that existed before they came onto the scene. So the point is it's a reflection of preparation as compared to reacting to a situation that suddenly hits you. In other words, the preparation that you have in your life will affect the way you handle things. And that's the mindset. The second thing is that all of them had, before they committed themselves to anything, they had first-hand observation. They went and talked to people and listened and interacted and whatever. The third thing is that every one of those had to make the situation very visible. It, I doubt if anybody was surprised because everybody knew what the situation was, but somehow it had to move to the top of the agenda. And that's what the leader did. He really forced that issue. And tied to that then is the issue of accountability. You know, are you going to grab onto it? So it's not the leader deciding, but the people committing. And there's a big difference between that. And all of that is done in a very transparent way. So there's no place to hide. Uh, and then after that, there's a process put in place that essentially changes the existing mindset that you find in the workplace or the organization, whatever it is. So you've got all of those kinds of things interacting. So it's not just one technique or one thing that you can adopt, but a mindset that you have to change. And that is pretty much also the focus I like to take with the guy we're going to talk about today, which is Ohno, OHNO. He was vice president at Toyota and started in the plant and continued in kind of the architect or the instigator to the Toyota way. Toyota, when he was involved with them, was in financial straits. They were so bad that some people refused to give them credit. Why is that important? When you have no money, how are you supposed to run production? So you go from hand to mouth kind of thing, no inventory. If you have little cash, you can't afford to hire experts. So what do? You rely on people and people's ideas, those who have faced the problems on the floor. Um, then to further compound the problem, not only internal to Toyota, but also their lack of performance on a world scale. They were costing too much to make cars, and the quality was terrible. So that's kind of the background of what the situation existed when Ohno came in onto the scene. Uh, what I like about Ohno is methods. So much so that if somebody did that today, most probably they would get fired because they were too challenging. You know, so I've got a book called Lean Thinking, and it's a book by Womack and Jones. And there's a couple of things that I'd like to read. At one time, Ohno was invited to go to visit a factory that was making radiators and stuff like that. And then he asked to see the plant manager, and I met the plant manager, Kawabe. Uh, anyway, and he asked him, "Are you responsible for this plant?" And Kawabe acknowledged that he was. Ohno then roared, "This operation is a disgrace. You are completely incompetent. Fire this man immediately." Now, that he didn't fire him, but just shows you the energy, I guess you could say, of being kind, that was put towards achieving what he needed to do. Another quote that I've got in there is Ohno's reputation was one of unrelieved ferocity. He was barely able to suffer geniuses, and the fools he seemed to find around him could expect routine tongue lashing for failures they scarcely understood. So it just shows you the I don't know how to describe it. The not violent, but he got his point across. So there's a bunch of other places that I found in another book where he's walking through a factory, of a Toyota factory, and he sees some stuff stacked on the side of the operation area. So he asks, "Well, what's this?" And it was defects. And his response was, "Never hide defects." So he started grabbing the stuff and throw it into the middle of the place for everybody to see. So I would say it was violent, but it was a very I don't know. It was unique.
Direct and to the point. I
Yes,
I,
yes,
I heard unrelenting ferocity. I think that's a
yes,
great phrase. Wow.
yes, yes. So he demanded that to disclose all defects so that, if there was an opportunity, then you stop the line and then you fix it. That was his philosophy. So the question that I read this, and he was very successful, as you know, with Toyota being what it is today. Why make a spectacle on the floor? Because he could have been on the quiet side and say, "Hey, this is we can't do that." No, he made a show of it. So first, he was tackling the issue on the floor firsthand, but he was also tackling the mindset that was existing, hiding defects versus finding the cause.
On that subject, am I hearing that he decided that defects would not be failures, but opportunities?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely,
Interesting. Interesting
absolutely.
mindset. Thank you.
And two, there's that if you fix the system, you can have smooth production as compared to having defects that you postpone until later on in the assembly line. And at that time, then it's more costly and more difficult, and it hasn't fixed the real problem. You just fix one problem instead of the cause of the problem. So when he was doing that and doing it on the floor, he made that a learning experience for all in the vicinity. So much so that another author acknowledges that when he would show up on the floor, problem people would avoid eye contact with him because it's a little bit like little kids, if I don't see you, then you don't see me, kind of thing. So
Yeah.
even though they're very visible.
And there's a pun with his name because he would
Yes,
show up and they would say, "Oh no."
exactly. The other thing is that when there was an episode like that on the floor, guess what? The grapevine would repeat it. So the point was is that he wasn't there to solve a problem. He was there to change a mindset. And that's the distinction I would like to make is to get people to understand that the key thing is not the, what's the problem, but how do we get here and getting people to want to fix it. An example of that, recently I was at a plant, and as I'm walking by a conveyor belt, I see a crowbar. So exactly, that was my reaction. What's that doing here? Oh, that's because the conveyor belt once in a while jams up. So we take the crowbar and we move it back and forth, and then the thing moves. So instead of fixing the problem and getting the maintenance to say, you know, find a permanent solution, they were accommodating the problem, which is a source of waste. And again, the issue is not the crowbar, the issue is the mindset,
Yes.
the tolerance of and working around problems instead of solving them. Uh, Another episode, he went into a plant and then he told the supervisor, draw a circle on the floor. And the guy drew a little circle. I said, no, a bigger circle so you can stand in it. So he drew a bigger circle. Then he says, now you stay here and don't move, and I'll be back. No further explanation. So again, it's kind of dramatic, and everybody else is wondering what's going on, kind of thing. And the supervisor is probably scratching his head and saying, okay, what is it that I'm supposed to do? And the point was is that watch and see what's going on in the process and figure out how to make it better. Okay. So again, it's a situation where he doesn't tell people how to fix it, but he puts the spotlight on the issue and expect them to not to postpone and say, well, we'll fix it tomorrow, or at the end of the shift we'll fix it. No, you fix it now. You look at it now. And so there's a sense of immediacy. And that translates into stoppages. But eventually, when you fix the problems, guess what? Everything runs smoothly. So when I'm looking at the Ohno, those are the kinds of things that strikes me. Uh, all of this has been documented and formalized within the Toyota network. Okay, here's one example. Okay, it says what the Toyota way is. One is respect for people and continuous improvement. Now, respect for people is, we could say, well, how was he respectful of people? Well, the point was he was targeting the supervision, but not the workers, because the workers were doing what the management was telling them to do. And the people who are charged to make things better for the workers is the supervisor. So respect of people, then they break it into two parts, teamwork and respect. And then the continuous improvement. Challenge the existing situation, a phrase that they call Genki Genbutsu, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and then Kaizen, which is continuous improvement. So the Genki Genbutsu, I don't know if you see it over here.
Yes, we can see it.
Uh, it is essentially three components. One is to go to the floor, Gemba. Genbutsu is to look at the real thing, look at the specific thing, not just a gloss over the operation, but specific kinds of things. And then as you look at the real thing, then you get the real facts, not what you think, but what actually is taking place. So today, those kinds of things have been formalized by Toyota and really passed along to a whole bunch of organizations. Uh, I've been involved with the hospital in Boston, and they were doing exactly, well, trying to do exactly what the Toyota way is. So the thing that I see with the Ohno that I want to stress is how do you change the mindset? And you cannot dilly dally and pussyfoot around. You have to confront the issues and have some very specific expectations. Like we fix it, we identify it, we target it right away, and we fix it so that you get the results rather quickly. So the implication is two things for in general. One is how the leader is going to manage himself or herself, because this doesn't happen if you stay in the office. And let's face it, if you're a manager, you're in the office. And if you're in the office, you ain't knowing what's going on, period. So you've got to find a way, a discipline, a time management that allows you to be on the floor. You have to also think about how you view people. And Ono was very clear that he thought that ideas come from people, not from him, but from the people who do the work. So how you view workers and what you ask them to do is crucial from a leader, from a supervisor. One time I was on the floor at a company in Florida, and a lady on an assembly line says, "Look at this. This is junk. This stuff isn't sticking. It's not working." So I said, "Well, what did you talk to your supervisor?" And she says, "Yes, I talked to my supervisor, and he said, my job is not to ask questions, but just to do what you've been told to do." You can see the mindset that has to change. Yeah,
It's completely contrary to the way to have meaningful, helpful progress and get out of a rut.
exactly. And how can you ask people to be motivated when, like this lady, this will turn out to be garbage?
It's a morale buster.
Exactly, exactly. And that's one of the things that uh, surveys show is that people have to have pride in what they're doing. If they don't, then guess what? So the manager has to then figure out a way to instill ownership and accountability. Well, with Ohno, there was no question. The supervisor of the area that was in question knew who was responsible and knew who was supposed to come up with solutions. So when you look at that, then the leader's behavior is crucial. You could look at Ohno, no, Ohno, Bratton, and you can see that he followed the same things. He viewed policemen as assets. He rode with them and talked to them and spent time with them. And when there were problems with the length of time they would take to prosecute somebody, guess what? He made a mobile unit with legal uh, expertise, I guess you could say, to handle the cases right there and then, kind of thing. So he
Wow.
found ways to make it happen.
And
So every one of,
he
I'm
gave
sorry?
his officers permission to have ideas and
Yes,
express how to improve the process.
exactly, exactly. And he would criticize the precinct leaders if they didn't come up with ideas. If they had an idea, they tried it and it didn't work, that was not the subject of criticism. Criticism was it for inaction. So to have a proactive kind of attitude. So you see the contrast that there is in mindset. Under one system, you accommodate the situation as compared to having ideals and standards and applying those standards. And when it's not working, it's not working. So fix it. And it's, it goes back to the thing with the Bible. It says, if you sin, you're a slave to sin. Well, the same thing. If you replace sin for missing the target, if you miss the target, guess what? You're slave to the inefficiencies built into the system.
Yes.
Okay.
We're
Um,
about out of time, Michelle.
okay. So when I look at all of that with Ohno, well, his methods of changing the mindset might be frowned upon in today's work environment. Somehow the challenge is for the leader not to be bombastic, but still to have to bring things to the fore and force the issue for resolution. And most places, if you don't see it, if you're not there, if you don't know, how are you going to challenge the system?
And I'm going to offer that it's possible that even those supervisors who were talked to, shall we say, roughly,
Yes,
came to believe that they were respected and that they were talked
yes,
to that way because of Ono's respect for them
yes,
and their leadership.
yes, yes. Yeah, and later on, I read that in another book. There was one guy that worked with him for 40 years,
Wow.
and he said, getting a lashing every day had never had any praise. So, but the guy had very high respect for what Ono was trying to do and what he was saying, and he was right. So, and when he was taking issue, he was taking issue with the existing situation. And that's the key thing is how do you force the thing? How you put the spotlight on the situation so that there's no escape from it.
I love
All
this.
right.
This is great. We've talked about Nissan, now we've talked about Toyota, and organizations of all kinds can use these ideas.
Yeah. And
Thank you,
the
Mike.
point is that they all had different ways of doing or following the same stages in making the change to happen. And what I'm trying to stress is the role of the leader is to be aware of those things and foster that kind of culture.
Yeah.
And the change in mindset. It's not an add on, it's a change of culture.
And it's not the leader's ideas, it's the person's ideas, the worker's
Exactly.
ideas.
How do you tap the ideas of everybody? One last thing. One time I was in Japan with a group of businessmen from the Middle East, and part of the group was a couple of engineers who were responsible for continuous improvement. And they were proudly saying, well, they get 300 different kind of suggestions a year, but we only pick two or three that we work on actively. And my reaction was time out. That defeats the whole purpose of continuous improvement. The whole idea is to get everybody participating. And no matter what the small contribution is, it still is a contribution. And all of that has a cumulative effect. So by saying, oh, well, I'll pick three, forget all the others, the point is what other people are supposed to think? Well, my ideas don't count. So why should I bother?
It discourages that participation.
Exactly, exactly. Anyway,
Well, good. And thank you. And look forward to next visit.
will do. Have a nice day.